My story, man, was all a lie. 6x6. When I was 24, I was 4x4. I actually had an idea, to drop an album called it 4x4. Four kids and four baby moms at 24. This is my story. It was all a lie. It started in 97, the first one. And I'm gonna call this one part one. Mama said put a muzzle on her. Man, it was rough, man. I met this, at the time I would have called her a country bumpkin, but, she was from North Carolina. She reminded me of a chocolate Holly Berry. Low cut hair, big booty. I'm investing, I'm getting money, I'm hustling, I'm grinding, I'm getting paper every day. And what I found out is, you chase money and they'll chase you, talking about the girls. So I ain't never have a shortage of that because I was always getting money. A lot of good girls wanted a bad boy. But I ran into one through one of my relatives out here in Minnesota. That's where it took place at. Actually, right in a place some people call it Brooklyn Center, but it's an extension of the North Side, Minneapolis. So I met her, this girl. She was from North Carolina. She had befriended my cousin, like her senior year in high school. Her mom and her family had moved out to Minnesota because her mom went to further her education and I guess finish up on her master's degree. So she did it at the U. While she did that, she her kids was finishing up their school. So mine ended up being baby's mom. Finished up her high school with my cousin. That's how I met her. Actually, I just had got back in Minnesota that season, that summer, because I was out of town in Cali, living in, so I'm a native of California originally, but I was out there chilling, so I came back to DeSoto, and my cousin was like, hey, I got this homegirl, a good friend of mine, da-da-da, you might want to meet her, she might want to meet you, whatever. So she set up a blind date, and the rest was history. And the thing about it was, I'm thinking I had got something new, but ain't nothing new. That's one thing about it, ain't nothing new, but it's all leftover borrowed used P&D. So me and her started chopping it up, kicking it, off the back, she liked the nigga, digging on nigga. But really what it was the hustle, it was the grind. I was living fast. And it goes back to that bad boy shit, you know what I'm saying? So she was really attracted to that, especially being from the South, they say they like them old good old city slickers, you know what I'm saying? So right there, she was digging me off the back. Well, we ended up, kicking it for like a few months. Then her and my cousin and like five of them moved into a house over in a place called Uptown, right? So they got like five brides, five good girls in a big ass house, you know? They had their own dudes coming through there, whatever. I'm coming through solo dolo, digging on her, whatever. Then in the midst of all that, hanging low, man, messing around, she gets pregnant. I still don't know too much about her at this time. I'm thinking, okay, bam, she's pregnant, but she was devastated. I'm like, well, you hurt? I'm kind of hurt too, because this is my first kid, it's your first kid, whatever. But we could figure it out, we could pull through this. But for her, it was something different, it was more personal because I didn't know this at the time. She already had one kid in North Carolina, and that kid was being raised by the father, by her first baby dad. I didn't even know nothing about dude. I knew she had an ex, but I didn't even know she had a kid though. You know what I mean? Here it is. This wench got like a 2-year-old. I think she was about to be 21 when she got pregnant. I just turned 17, was about to be 18. So when she had my child, I just had turned 18. You dig? She already had one kid. But I didn't even know none of this till like later on in the pregnancy, I started finding out bits and pieces of her. And that goes back to it was all a lie. So me and her quite never worked out because she was living kind of promiscuous. I was living fast, so I didn't really think it was my kid to a certain degree. However, I did because I was really dealing with her. We was really dealing with each other like on a frequent basis. So when she had the kid, I wasn't in the delivery room. because she didn't let me know until after she delivered the baby. And she called me up. I had the baby, da da da. We hook up. I see the kid. I'm like, okay. Yeah, I mean, she looked like she could be my kid, you know, everything lined up. As far as certain features, she had a lot of hair. I had a lot of hair when I was born. She had a certain, you know, the what they say, pie face, why she had that. And there's certain features, you know. So I said, you know what? It's my kid, whatever. I ain't know no better. I signed a father parentage recognition paper. That's very important. A lot of brothers don't know that. When you sign that paper, you opt out of even doing the paternity test, right? Because the thing is that you're saying you're the father, and even if you're not, you're the father because you're signing rights for this child. So a lot of cats don't know that when you sign that father parent recognition parentage paper, you actually signed up for child support immediately. So didn't know that. So signed it. My stepmom at the time caught wind of what happened. She was she was hurt. She was like, "No, you shouldn't have did that. You know, Kelly was promiscuous. Da da da. You don't know. You should have took a paternity test." I said, "Yeah, you're right, mom. You know, that's how I was feeling." I'm like, "You're right. You know, that yeah, you could be right." Because she started telling me certain stories about the girl, how she was getting caught up over at my people's crib with other dudes before I encountered her and stuff like that. She was really out there. So um, I said, "Nah, I ain't tripping. This is my kid. I'm taking responsibility." To the even point to where I went back to California after the child was born. When I came back to Cali, and I voluntarily put myself on child support. I ain't like that. I don't want to be no deadbeat. I want my kid to have something. I'm working. I'm getting money legally. You know, off the hustle, I'm getting money legally too. I'm working on getting a trade at this time. I'm young. I'm on to something. So I signed myself up for child support voluntarily. Didn't think nothing of it. I'm in Cali working. All of a sudden, you know, now the child was at this time when I went back to Cali, baby girl was probably like 8 weeks old. Prior to that, when she was born, I had her every day. Her mom was working. Um, I had more of a flexible schedule because I'm hustling, I'm getting down. So I was able to have her. So I had her up until when I moved back to Cali when she was 8 weeks. So I come back to Cali, whatever, reestablished myself, working on getting a trade, got a job, working. All of a sudden I get a page. It's her mom. "I'm at the LAX airport." "What?" "Yeah, come get your daughter. You need to take her. I ain't dealing with her right now." "What?" "Okay, I'll take her off your hands." I was having her. Me and the girl I was with at the time, we both had got a bond with her because, that was my girl. I had a different girl, so she was around her every day too because she was around me. So she ended up being in Cali with me. You know what I'm saying? So I tell her, like, "Hey, look, um, baby girl's out here. Her mom just popped up out of nowhere. But shit, she's at the airport. I'm at work. I'm like in Orange County working or something. She's at the LAX airport." So I called one of my aunties. Called called Diane up. "Hey, Diane, can you go get my baby mom for me? Now she's at the airport." Real 1,000 shit. She trill shit. She went and got my baby mom. Took my other auntie, my biological blood auntie, like, "Hey, ride with me," and took her to the airport with her, and they went and retrieved my daughter and my baby's mom and brought her back to where I was at, which was the IE, Riverside, about like a good 60 miles from the airport, from LA. They went out there, brought her back. That's 120 miles with no problem. Cool. So when I get off of work, I meet up with her. "Man, what's going on with you, man? You just pop up unannounced. I didn't know you was going. Like, how did you know to come to this airport? How did you know, like, how did you even know I was gonna be right here? Man, you didn't even call, let me know. You just popped up in town." She said, "Well, I knew you was in California, and I can't deal with her right now. I got to get my life in order. I ain't got no this going on. I ain't got that going on. Um, I'm going back to North Carolina. I'm leaving Minnesota, so I want to go out there and get established. I need you to take her. Or can I stay out here in California and get something established, and me and you get back together and probably work something out?" Say, "Nah, we didn't get along. We ain't gonna be able to work. So we ain't compatible. And I'm with somebody else right now. So it just didn't work." So she left like 2 days later on the train. I kept my daughter. Real trill nigga shit. Kept my daughter. I said, you get yourself together. Let me know when you good. So I had my daughter for like 6, 7 months. Then she called me out the blue like several months later. I got a job. I'm back in school. I'm going to be a nurse. I got a crib. Can I get my daughter back? I said, you know what? I'll do that. The reason why I did it, my family was against me doing that because they said that was really child abandonment. They said, you know what? She abandoned her child. You could get full custody. I said, yeah, I can. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think her mom's like that. She just, she was in a situation, and that's what two parents is for. And if my daughter stays with me, I just get full custody of her. I don't want her to be too rough around the edges because I'm young. I'm like 18 years old. I'm fired up. I'm post off the war on drugs out of Clinton era, out the 90s. So I'm fired up still. I got a job. I'm slowly programming into not being like that. However, it's like that. So I said, you know what? I ain't gonna be like that. I wish her mama call, I'll let her get her. So she called me one day. Um, yeah, I got my stuff together like I said. So I said, well, we can meet up in Minnesota. That's halfway from you. You're in North Carolina. I'm in Cali. That's halfway. So we met up in Minnesota. Now the catch to this was, her family did not know that she even had a second child. So when I met up with her and she retrieved our daughter, she brought her back to North Carolina and introduced her to her family, her grandmas, her aunties, everybody in her family, her dad, her granddaddy, everybody. Several months after she was born, they didn't even know that my daughter existed for several months. So and I knew that because on her second birthday, I went down to North Carolina to visit her and to chill with her on her second birthday when she turned 2, and I met her family. Now this was all interesting because stuff started coming out. That's when it was all a lie. That's when everything started coming out. Fast forward, I get out to North Carolina to visit her for her second birthday. Her mom invites me out there. I say, you know what? I'm going back to Minnesota anyways. So, instead of going to Minnesota and then going to North Carolina, I'll just go the roundabout way, take this long detour way, and go to North Carolina from Cali, and then go to Minnesota after I leave North Carolina. So, no lie, I took like a bus, a Greyhound. I ain't gonna stunt. Took me like 3 days, stinking and all. But you do what you gotta do for your child. So I rode that Greyhound for 3 days from Cali to North Carolina. So I get out there. Now, I remind you, I ain't seen my daughter in like a year and a half went by. But me and her we had this tight bond prior to me not seeing her because I had her from when she was born till she was like 7 months old, nonstop, day in, day out. So we had a tight bond. So I see her. Immediately she comes right to me, comes running like that bond was still there. So the next day was her birthday, because I got there that Friday. Her birthday was like on Saturday, so I get there. And I'm just observing everything, her interaction with her mom, everything else. So it went cool. I told her mom, I said, after the birthday, take me to a room. I'm just get a room somewhere. I ain't gonna try to lay up on you or none of that. I'm giving you your space. She said, no, you can stay here. It's good. I ain't gonna beat up on your pockets like that. You done took 3 days to come out here and spend some money. So that, what I could do to pay that in return, pay that back to you in return is just let you chill here if you want to. And, I got the couch downstairs. I ain't tripping. So I was like, nah, because, we still, we kind of ain't really ironed out our differences from how we ended our relationship. So I'm like, I'm kind of good. However, I took her up on that stay the night. And the next day, I get up, she's about to make breakfast. So she's cleaning up the kitchen on her country thing, getting the kitchen cleaned up, about to whip up some food. And then when she grabbed the broom, my daughter seen the broom and shot across the room and jumped right in my lap, like terrified. I'm like, huh? When she did that, it made me cringe up. Like, why would she do that? You know what I mean? Like, she was like scared of the broom. And how I knew she was is because when I seen her, I said, let me see if she's scared of this broom. If it's the broom. I went and grabbed a broom and went close to her. She went across the room. Now, remind you, we had this bond. She ain't scared of me, and I ain't seen her in a year and a half. So we're really like, I ain't had to discipline her like any type of way. And I don't even believe in a dude discipline the girls like that anyway. So she shouldn't have got that from me, you know? So I'm like, man, my daughter's scared of the broom? So when her mom comes back in the room, because she went upstairs, she comes back downstairs, and I'm like, hey, why my daughter scared of that broom like that, man? And then right there it went up. Hey, what are you talking about? I said, listen, man, I ain't with none of that shit, man. It's young me. I'm like, look, man, I'll beat the motherfucking brakes off you, man. You motherfucking whooping my daughter, beating my daughter down with a motherfucking broom, man. So I started going in on her, you know what I'm saying? And I wasn't gonna put my hands on her, but as a man, I'm like kind of like I'm upset, so I'm in my chest about it, and I'm like puff it up, and so she's flexed it too. She's a loudmouth, you know what I'm saying? BT 1000, she's fired up. So she ended up getting so fired up, she called the police on me. Like, just get out of my house. You ain't gonna be saying I beat my daughter and all this other stuff. I said, I'm just saying though, why is she scared of the broom like that? You know what I'm saying? So, but what I left out the story earlier in the story was why me and her mom didn't really work out in the beginning was we had a situation one time when we first started dating. Right when she got pregnant, right before she got pregnant, me and her mom had a situation. Now, I should have stopped messing with her after this day. I'm talking to her and I talk with my hands sometimes, like I Italian. So I'm talking and I was my left hand out there just talking, and she clenched onto my finger and bit it, locked into it. And I'm like, I couldn't get my finger, not my index finger, but the one next to it, out of her mouth. So I'm like, man, let my finger go, you know what I'm saying? So I don't want to beat her in the head, man. She gonna give me on the mess. So I look over and she has some body spray. So I got the body spray and sprayed her in her eyes. Ah! She opened her mouth up to scream. Let my hand go. Let my finger go out of her mouth. Man, when she let my finger go, man, I had a gash. I'm talking about a long mark in my, like, I called my mom up, man, this broad crazy. She down to try to bite my finger off. I ain't never ran into no female that was going straight bite my finger off, right? The tip of my finger. So my mom was like, man, she need a muzzle, man. You dealing with a Doberman pincher. That's why this part one is, my mama said you should have put a muzzle on it. You know what I mean? Because she was like, she need a muzzle. So I'm like, man. So she was high energy. She was really with it. So when I seen that interaction with my daughter do that, it kind of spin me off into when me and her got into it and how she reacted and her energy level and her temperament. So I kind of related both of them into the two being like, dang, she's a problem. She's, you know what I'm saying, she's aggressor. So when we got into it, the police came and the cop that pulled up on the scene immediately off the back, and I gotta say this dude was 1,000. A lot of people don't understand. Police, man, they're human, they're people, man. This dude said, hey, immediately, I know you're not from here. I said, for real? He said, yeah, I could tell by your vernacular, by the way you talk. You're not from here, man. He said, you're dealing with such and such. I said, yeah. He said, now, it came over the radio. She said her baby dad. Listen, man, I ain't supposed to tell you this, but let me talk to you. And he pulled me to the side. This one made him 1,000. He pulled me to the side. He said, hey, man, I went to school with her and her first baby dad. They both have the same name. I ain't going to say their name because it's what, through the whole, it was all a lie, Chronicle, I ain't telling the names. They all got code names. So I'm going to give her Doberman. That's her code name, right? So he said they both, her first baby dad and her, I went to high school with both of them. He said her actual baby dad's a sheriff in this county. He actually got moved over to the next county over because she was dating somebody and they got into it, and he heard that they were arguing, and he thought she had some dude at her house, which she did because she wasn't dating her baby dad no more. And he was overzealous. He went to her house and pulled a pistol on dude and everything else. So they moved him out the county so he wouldn't be close to her and being on that spaz stuff. So So the dude's telling me this, and he's like, man, I'm telling you this to say that. That's why I pulled up so quick, because I didn't want anything to be a situation with you and dude. Because even though he's in the next county over, he would have got that call. He got the calls. He gets the calls too from our dispatch. Even though he's a county over, our dispatch and their dispatch share the same frequency. So he hears the calls. If he would have heard her address and her name, he would have been over. He would have been like one of the first people on the scene. So I came over to get you, so there's not a situation. He's like, actually, I'm gonna take you away from here because I don't even know if he got that call, man. I don't want you to be in danger, man. I don't even want nothing to happen to you, dude. That's what he told me. Young white dude told me this. I said, man, I appreciate that. So as he's telling me this, he was like, so after he tells me this, he's like, so are you willing to leave away from me? I said, yeah, man, because I'm not with trying to get trapped up. He said, yeah, you don't want to be caught up in there and whatever they got going on, and you don't know nobody, you ain't got no family out here. He said, what I'll do is, I don't know what kind of finances you got, but we have a magistrates out here, and the magistrate could probably get you like immediate visitation and stuff like that, where you can see your daughter while you out here and ain't got to deal with that. So I said, all right, that's cool. So I'm gung-ho. He drops me off at the magistrate's office. I go in there, I wait about an hour, 30, 40 minutes for her to come out, you know what I mean? She comes, talks to me, I go and talk to her actually when she was ready to. And off the back, the magistrate was like, look, I hear what you're saying, you want to see your daughter, you think the mom's not right. Listen, I'm not with none of that city stuff. We take care of our homes around here, and you might have to get a lawyer or something if you want to get some results, but I ain't with none of that. I'm like, damn, she did everything but call me a boy. I said, oh, you're on that. So I didn't get no results from the magistrate, so I left. And I said, you know what? I'm out of here. I ain't dealing with this country ass shit. It's backwards. So I called the Greyhound, said, hey, where's the Greyhound bus station at? They said there ain't one. So I was in a small ass town in North Carolina. That's how small the town was. They didn't even have no Greyhound station. They actually had a bus stop that was where the Greyhound pulled up to, and you had to hop on it, and it's just a regular bus stop. So I get a ride down there, hop in the cab, take that to the bus stop, and I'm sitting out there, me and my bag, ready to hit the Greyhound, just head to the soda. Pull the plug on the whole trip. And next thing you know, two red bones pull up. Look like a mom and a daughter, older one and a younger one, pull up in a car. Like, hey, you such and such? I said, yeah. They like, boy, get in the car, you going to see your kid. I said, how? They like, yeah, what's her name's auntie, and this is her cousin. And we heard that you and her got into it. We've been looking for you because my mom really likes you, which was my daughter's grandma, her great grandmother. She's like, she really likes you. I want you to take her to meet her because I talked to my daughter's great grandmother before with a phone. That's how I kind of used to keep tabs. Well, no, I didn't talk to her on the phone. I'm lying because they didn't even know who she was. So I didn't talk to her till after that. But she knew about me because when she brought her to North Carolina, she was like, man, it had to be a good man to take care of his daughter for that amount of time and then let you get her back with no problem. So that's what it was. So the auntie was like, yeah, my mom want to meet you, da da da. So I'm gonna take you over there. She gonna make you some chicken, a good old country home cooked meal and all that. I said, for real? She said, yeah. So I went by immediately, met her mom, so I met my daughter's grandma and my daughter's great grandmother. So I met the auntie's mom and my daughter's, which would have been the sister of the auntie, and then so I met the grandma and the great grandmother. So I'm chilling with my daughter that day at her great grandmother, and because her grandmother and great grandmother stayed next door to each other. That was the cold part about it. So that's how I was able to meet both of them right away. So I'm chilling with her family. She don't even know it. So now they're telling me stories about her childhood stories about the wench. And that's where the plot thickens. So the reason why the great grandmother was adamant about meeting me is because she said that for the whole time since my daughter was been out there, she had been overseeing her best interest. She said when she was maybe a year old, right after she got her back from me, she was trying to take her out, and it was a snowstorm that night. And her great grandmother said, I had a bad feeling. She's like, my grandbaby had some sort of mental illness breaks before in life. So she actually had been in a mental hospital. I think when she had lost the situation with her first daughter, she had a breakdown and went to the psych ward. I didn't know none of that prior to when I met her. So the great grandmother's like, yeah, she had a mental break, and that's why I really wanted her to be with you, because I know you was a good man because you had took care of her for so long and da-da-da. And whatever. But you didn't know this about her, so you just was giving her back out of good faith, but not knowing that about her. So so she's telling me there was a winter storm one night, and she wanted to take her out, and she said nah. She's like, she already had been at her house all day, probably like the couple days before that. She said she was at her house every day. She said she didn't mind it. She said I like her. She's like, I didn't mind it. She's a good kid, So she was like, I can't let you take the baby out at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and it's a snowstorm. And she said, you can't tell me what to do with my baby. She said, I'm asking you to leave her here. I don't feel safe with her being out in that snowstorm. And why are you taking her out this late? What are you about to do this late where you need her to be with you? She's like, I knew she wasn't used to, she didn't really want to have her. So why was she so adamant and struck on having her that night for that time? She's like, I felt something funny about that. Like if I would have let the baby out that door to go with her mama, we wouldn't have ever seen her again. I said, for real? She's like, yeah, she's unpredictable. That's what that's what my daughter's great grandmother said, which would be my baby's mom's grandmother. And I said, is that right? She said, yeah. I said, so what happened? She's like, well, I didn't let her take her out the door, and she just hit me, and we started fighting. And she said, I found myself on the floor. Now, at the time, she's boxing with her 70-something-year-old grandma, almost 80 years old. She said, so we're sitting there fighting, and I'm fighting. She said, I'm not going, I'm fighting. I'm a tough cookie. She said, and we're moving around the kitchen, we're making noise, and she said, my neighbor heard some commotion going on, and her neighbor were like best friends. She was at her house every day, all through the day. And the lady actually told me the story. This neighbor was actually at her house, and she's telling me the story. She's like, her neighbor heard some commotion, some banging, and she walked over, and she seen my baby's mom on top of her grandmother trying to beat her down, trying to choke her for her not letting her take the baby out the house. And so the neighbor, her best friend, the grandma's best friend, called the police, and they took her to the psych ward again. Well, during that time, her grandma was trying to reach out to me and couldn't get a hold of me. She couldn't get a hold of me. She said, if I would have got a hold of you, baby, we was going to give you custody of her and let you come raise her and take her and just raise her because we didn't feel she was fit mentally to have her. I said, wow. So I actually missed the opportunity to get my daughter back a second time around and actually raise her. And that was a lie, man, you know what I mean? Because I didn't know this about her mental state, being in the psych ward. I didn't know she had one kid already, you know what I mean? There's just certain levels to this, you don't know these layers of people when you're dealing with them, and all this shit come out, and you're like, man, whoa, what did I just signed up for this, So from that day, her aunt, which would be my baby's mom's aunt, which would have been my daughter's great aunt, she said, you know what, baby, if you want to stay out here and get your daughter, we can probably make that possible. I said, yeah. She said, yeah, well, my son, he's in the military, he's in the Navy, and he's overseas right now. He's abroad, and he has a townhome in Norfolk, Virginia, and he ain't gonna be coming back for a while. And he owns a place. You could go stay there and just get up on your feet, whatever, get a job, and you could just get custody of. You could just take her, have her. She's like, I'm gonna prove something, a point to you where I'm gonna let you know how she don't want her. Watch this. She said, when we leave here, I'm gonna call her up and say, you know what, girl, why don't you bring Kiki over to the house and let me keep her and watch what she does. This is what she did. She brought her over to the house. She brought me to her house. The aunt did. She said, go in the room. So this is actually, She actually did this before we went to her mother's house. This is how we got my baby. So I kind of left that out. So when when she first picked me up off the bus stop, right, her and her daughter, we went to her apartment immediately. She said, I'm gonna let you know how your baby mom, how she don't want your daughter. Watch this. She called her up. She said, hey girl, I heard dude left and went back to wherever he went to. Why don't you let me get the baby for a little bit? Me and my daughter, we want to take her shopping and do some stuff and hang out with her. She said, girl, you ain't saying nothing. I'll be over there in 5 minutes with her bag packed and all that. Man, my baby mom was over there in like 5 minutes with her backpack. So when she got there and knocked on the door, her auntie, real nigga shit, she said, hey, go in my room real quick, just close the door. I went in the room, closed the door. Baby mom dropped my baby off like she was groceries and walked out the door immediately and left. And then from there, her aunt took me to go meet her mother and her grandmother. Then that's when she told me about the crib in Norfolk, Virginia, and how I could stay there, for however long I wanted to. And I took her up on it for a couple weeks. I wasn't gonna leech up off this lady and her peoples. I told her, I said, if I could find a job within a couple weeks of being in VA, then I'll stay here. If not, then I'm gonna have to move around because that ain't my style. You know what I mean? I ain't with living off of nobody, So I stayed there for 2 weeks, hung with my daughter, looked for a job every day, but I couldn't find nothing. Norfolk was a different type of town, you know what I'm saying? It was like real conservative, so me coming in with my swag, they wasn't really feeling none of that, so it was hard for me to get a job, find work there. So I left. The whole time I had my daughter for 2 weeks in Norfolk, Virginia, she didn't even see her daughter. She didn't call to check up on her, and she didn't even know I was in town still. Till this day, she don't even know that took place. You know what I mean? And I really appreciate her family for doing that because it let me know a different side of people and like the inside of how people really could be when you really don't know somebody, And not to mention how just because sometimes somebody's your family doesn't mean you're going to agree with them. You know what I mean? Right is right and wrong is wrong. And her family showed me that there's people like that go off of that theory, go off of that way of thinking, So, this is part one. Mama say you should have put a muzzle on her. It was all a lie.
It was all a lie. I'm telling you, when I met this motherfucker at Blondie's night, first time this motherfucker wore makeup and a skirt and everything. Motherfucker's a tomboy his whole motherfucking life. And a motherfucking niece. It was all a motherfucking lie. Bitch, you know I had motherfucking lie that night at that motherfucking club. You know I was good, bitch. I was getting money. I was getting dough. Go back to the 20. Yeah, I didn't know she was fair flow, addicted to blow. You lied about everything though. Lied about having a kid, lied about your whole life, ho. Even lied about having some juice. When your man got robbed, you got pistol whipped and lost your tooth. None of that shit wasn't fucking true. Your grandma told me